What's going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a good start to your weekend, and I'm not sure what's going on with. There we go. It's like we're huge on the screen, but cool. Yeah, just a quick disclaimer, Cole and I did not do any form of audio or video check before we went live, so what you see is what you get tonight. Hope everything works. But nonetheless, this is the Going Broadway podcast. It's Alex and Cole as always. Cole, what's going on?
Check. Hello.
Can you hear me? There you are.
Check. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Alright.
me?
I am freezing like crazy over here, so I apologize. I don't know what's going on, but for whatever reason, it's freezing on me like crazy. So
You wanna take a second and just completely reboot and
I've been trying to leave the studio here a couple times and see what's going on. Give me 1 second here and make sure that I'm actually hardwired in, because sometimes it doesn't do that.
while he's taking care of that, just to kind of set the expectation for tonight's podcast, this is going to be a very recap and preview / predictions heavy evening. We had a segment that I was going to not debut tonight, but it was one we hadn't done in a while. I think I'm going to table that for a couple weeks and kind of pair that with another segment we're going to do on our that'll be the 18th. So the show that we're going to do on the 18th, I'm going to kind of tag team that, so to speak, with another segment that we'll do. Real quick, as far as the 18th goes, I'll keep you guys up to date, but it's quite likely we're going to have a later in the evening show on the 18th. Hopefully Cole comes back and he'll be a lot less, his video will be a lot less laggy and slow. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but yeah, as far as the show on the 18th, just a heads up, we'll probably have to move it due to commitments on my end. So I'll keep you guys up to date on that. While Cole gets his stuff squared away, let's see who we got. Travis Bird, good evening. Saw Eric Bischoff. DDP Camille. Cool. Yeah, correct, guys. If you're spamming Cole's email inbox, it's making our show slower, so knock it off. Thomas, good evening. Brian, good evening, one and all. I'm kind of hesitant to start this without Cole, but part of the reason, some of the reason I scrapped the earlier as advertised segment, if you will, was not only due to wanting to pair it with another segment in a couple weeks, but also for time reasons as well. So we're just gonna hang on. There it is. All right. Yeah, we're just gonna get rolling. So you guys that are on the chat are gonna have to help me out a little bit as we go along. There it is. Okay. So Cole's going to chime in once he gets back on. But the big thing I wanted to touch on, there he is. He's coming on, I think. Oh. Any better?
Check.
I can hear you, but it's...
Hold on.
Well, while he's getting that squared away, the thing I was going to touch on with you guys watching, and you guys can chime in on this conversation as always, is Mr. William Regal likely being done with AEW and headed to WWE. It just goes to show, in my opinion, that you can't ever fully rely on or trust what frankly anybody says as it relates to commitments, contracts, things like that, because the story was that he was on a 3-year deal, but now it's a short-term thing. I don't know exactly. You guys chime in and give me your thoughts on it, but um yeah, Thomas agreed.
All right, check. Can you hear me?
I can. To be fair, he has his own. He should be hardwired in. So
I'm
it's gonna take
hardwired in. I just turned my phone off the Wi-Fi. Like I everything and anything I can do to get this thing to stop freezing. This has never been this choppy before, so I don't know. Is it choppy on your guys' end? Like, am I
yeah, I mean it looks that way on my end.
okay?
So I'm not sure.
We'll have to deal, I guess, tonight, guys, and I will have
Yep.
to
We'll figure it
figure
out
it
for
out.
next week.
So, anywho, hello.
Should we do a complete reset?
Whatever you'd like to do.
Guys, this is the Going Broadway podcast. Alex and Cole with you this evening. Cole, besides your internet issues, what else is going on?
Well, guys, I have a cold. It's that time of year, and I'm battling through. I actually start a new job tomorrow, and I have come to terms with the fact that every time it seems like I start a new job or start a new adventure, I seem to get a cold like the day beforehand. So
That's usually how it works, though.
we're gonna have to battle through it. But anywho,
and I got my hot chocolate here in my Ico Pro mug.
There you go.
So we're good to go for a while. I was telling everybody though a couple quick things. Our show on the 18th. We'll keep you up to date on a specific time, but it is very, very likely we're going to move our show on the 18th to a later time. So maybe an hour or two later. So that would put it at 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern. So we'll do some GBP late night for you.
Oh
See
yeah,
how that goes.
Little late night show.
And and then as far as the 18th goes, that's when we're going to I like it. Let's go with that. But as far as our show on the 18th, that's also when we'll announce our 12 Days of Christmas winner. You do not have to be present to win. We will contact the winner. But stay tuned after this podcast as Cole will be doing our day 4 on our Twitch channel, our next match for that. So stay tuned. But all that combined is a reason that, many reasons why the as advertised making the jump segment or making the move, however you want to put it, we're going to table that for a couple weeks and piggyback that with another segment I want to do that day. So, but for tonight, let's stay on the topic at hand. Mr. William Regal leaving AEW, likely headed back to WWE. And what's funny is Cole and I have our own private chat thread as far as just keeping a running list of our shows, what we have planned, what we want to talk about. Whenever I planned this particular segment, this making the move, excuse me, making the jump segment, whatever you want to call it, my number one guy that I would have said right off jump who needed to make a move was William Regal, ironically enough. But at the time, part of the conversation would have been, well, he's under a 3-year contract, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, that's not the case now. And I've seen this too. James Meeks said that he was free to leave when he wanted, that he had some kind of out in his contract. Don't know the situation, but there's two ways to look at this situation. But before I go into too much more detail, Cole, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the way that they've used William Regal has been pretty poor. I'm not gonna lie, I've never been a fan of the Blackpool Combat Club thing. I thought it made no sense to put, in my opinion, 3 top stars in a group with another guy who to me still just doesn't do it for me in Wheeler Yuta. None of it made any sense. It seemed forced. And William Regal basically was just a glorified commentator. I mean, they just brought him out during Daniel Bryan and William Regal or John Moxley matches and had him talk, and that's about it. This is a guy that has so much to bring. I mean, we're talking about one of Triple H's right-hand men. When it comes to what he was doing in NXT, the success of NXT when it was in its prime. And I think that they've missed the mark with him. I don't know how you can miss the mark with him, but I think they missed the mark. I do not at all 100%. I was totally against the William Regal turn to be with MJF type thing. I don't think that you needed William Regal to help get MJF any more over as a heel, as a cheater, as any of those things. I don't think it needed Regal to turn for that to happen. And then obviously the clip from today or from this past week with MJF kind of turning on Regal and sending him in the ambulance, it just felt like a write-off. It just felt like, okay, we're writing Regal off TV. There's nothing left for him. It felt very much how they did like Matt Hardy with Randy Orton. And when they sent Matt Hardy kind of packing, it was like, hey, thanks for what you did. We're going to have you get beat up really bad and put in an ambulance to never be seen on our television ever again.
I mean, to be fair, that's just how you write people off TVs. You have them take some sort of injury, angle, beat down, whatever. But back to the main point at hand is I completely agree with what you said, Cole, what some of the viewers have said, that just the booking in general is like a week to week thing. And there's slowly but surely, mind you, this is what brought AEW to the dance, so to speak. Slowly but surely, it's like long-term booking is just going out the window. And to me, so I mentioned I look at this in two ways. A, I'm all for it. I'm all for Regal going back to WWE, whether it's on-screen personality or not, if it's just a backstage thing, whatever. Part of the reason for that is because, like you said, AEW was just wasting him. I mean, it felt useless. But then you look at it from the angle, what does this say? Wow, your picture just really improved.
I know. I think it's the background. I've been messing with it while we're talking, and now there's no glitch, no whatever. So I might just have to mess with how my room looks.
It's all good. So, sometimes the like the green screen effects or whatever, I don't know why they do that. But anyway, with Regal leaving, it's like, what does that say about your product that you bring a guy in, supposedly has a 3-year deal?
That's funny.
We'll leave that one alone. But Brian, that was good. But what does that say about your product that a guy who has a 3-year deal, mind you, whether he had an out clause in his contract or if TK let him out just out of respect for Regal, and if that's the case, for what it's worth, I mean, props to TK for doing that. I'm skeptical if that's the case, but nonetheless, I'm throwing it out there. What does that say about your product if you're AEW for somebody that was with you for 6 months, I think, and they possibly had a 3-year deal, but they wanted out after 6 months? Much less someone in the business like William Regal, who's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, and when you're talking William Regal, we're talking about a guy that has a lot of, how do I put this? It's like getting the star player from another team that knows the playbook, that knows the personnel, that knows the future plans, that knows, we're talking about a guy that can bring a lot of insight on what your competitor's doing, from that standpoint. So you don't really know how to use him on screen, which, let's just be real, Regal wasn't really much on screen in NXT. Like, I know he was the GM, if you will, and had some vignettes and stuff, but for the most part, he was backstage. Mm-hmm. He was a backstage personnel. that was helping create future talent. And if you look at the guys that we consider to be like the next up kind of mentality or the right now kind of stars, look at the names that they drop every single time. Look at the names that they drop when it says who they owe their credit to and whatever. It's usually Shawn Michaels, Triple H, William Regal. It's usually those three names that come out of WWE when it comes to the NXT product, when it comes to the future stars. Those are the three names that have always been named in this past maybe NXT era, if you will, that they had. So you have a guy that everyone reveres and respects, and yet I don't see him working with the talents that need him. You put him with Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, doesn't need him. You put him with Jon Moxley, doesn't need him. Both of those guys can work a mic. Both of those guys are already popular, already set, already got a fan base. None of them need it. You put him with Claudio Castagnoli, whatever his name is. Just that's a terrible name, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan.
I mean,
they could just call him Claudio, and I'd be happy.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
But they put him with him, already established, already has a fan base. The only one that kind of makes sense is Wheeler Yuta from the standpoint of Wheeler Yuta is garbage on the microphone, and they're trying to get him over. But
I have a lot to say about that, but I'll save it for later.
But here's the actual the meat of it all. There are guys on your roster who would really benefit from a William Regal manager.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the role that you wanted to put him in, there are a ton of guys on your roster who would benefit from a William Regal manager. 100%.
Yep.
But if it were me, 100%, I would have wrote TK off of TV and made William Regal my guy that kind of does the booking and the on screen, kind of like the Adam Pearce in WWE. Now I know you don't necessarily want to copy, you don't want to do what everybody else is doing, but I would make him the on-screen personality that kind of does the booking and the whatever. You could. This is the perfect time to run that angle too, because you have all the backstage drama, you have all the stuff going on backstage. So you run that angle of, man, TK's like, man, I've lost control of this thing. No one, is listening because I need a guy that commands respect. And you bring William Regal in to be the on-screen personality to make the decisions, if you will. And it creates that atmosphere of respect. There's on-screen personality. There's somebody for the talents to go and deal with and talk to and whatever. But he's a gold mine when it comes to backstage personnel and being able to help talents figure themselves out. And yeah, I don't know about you, but in the 6 months that William Regal was there, I haven't seen a single talent elevated because of William Regal. No one has come out and said it. No one is being like William Regal this, William Regal that. And I also think this goes back to the dynamic that where I will say CM Punk kind of has a point. I get what he was saying is that nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. Here I am, a veteran in the business. Here I am, a guy that was top of the company against the company's wishes. I'm trying to give you advice. I'll watch your matches. I'll stay after and chat with you. I'll go over stuff with you. And nobody was really taking him up on that. Is anybody doing that with William Regal? Is anybody doing that with Jeff Jarrett? Is anybody doing that with Sting? Like Mark Henry, Big Show, all these legends that you brought in. Are you utilizing them to actually get your talent better, to actually get them advice to get over? Because that's where I think NXT and WWE has AEW beat 100 times over, is the fact that they have wrestlers who are hungry to learn, hungry to grow, hungry to soak up what's being thrown at them from these other legends in the business, if you will. And AEW is not doing that. And so I think William Regal going back to WWE makes perfect sense for him. It's where he's going to get utilized to the best of his ability. I hope they put him right back on. They're kind of been using Shawn Michaels in that role. Mm-hmm. I hope it's not like a done deal where Shawn is just the new guy there and that's what it is. I hope they actually move Shawn up to the main roster and allow Shawn to help Triple H with the main roster stuff. And they let William Regal go back to being the NXT guy and, doing all of the things that he was doing in NXT prior before leaving.
Agreed. More WWE news with a potential talent on the way. PW Insider reported that Eric Young is headed back to WWE. Do we get a Sanity reunion?
This is an interesting dynamic because out of all the names that are out there, Eric Young probably would be not, and then no disrespect,
Mm-hmm.
he would probably not even be in my top 50 of names to go back to WWE or to make their way back to the
So
WWE.
to clarify, top 50 of guys you wouldn't predict would be on their list, or
I'm
top
saying
50
top
of guys
50.
you would want or not want to see?
If I'm Triple H, he doesn't make my top 50 of guys to call.
I gotcha. Okay.
And I'm obviously maybe being a little crazy on that number, but I'm saying he's pretty far down my list
Yeah.
of all the when I say available, all the talents that I would probably put a pot right. And I've been saying this, WWE, you're good. Your roster, good. You have a solid roster. Let's work with that for now. Because guess what? We've already been seeing it. The AEW exit train is on full effect right now. Everybody's jumping ship. It's not looking good. It's not looking like it's going to go in AEW's favor with a lot of these guys. I would hold out, and focus on my talents, focus on making my product the best that it can be. And then when it comes time for a Keith Lee or a FTR or any of these people that are talents that you didn't really want to lose in the first place, that are in AEW that you want to come back, wait for them to for their contracts to run up, make them an offer that they can't refuse, and bring them back to your product. I don't know. I guess here's my question, and here's the thought that I had. I saw it, and then the first thought that came to my mind was, well, good for Eric Young. I'm happy for Eric Young. Love what he's done throughout his career. He's always been entertaining to watch, both heel and face. I guess the question I have is, outside of a Wyatt family, if that's what they're going to do, and he's a part of that somehow,
Okay.
where does Eric Young fit? Main roster or NXT? I'm including all of it. I don't really see a place where he fits on his own, in a group, Insanity, Sanity reunion or not. Like, I don't really see a place for him, period, that makes sense where he's needed, where it's going to get him over, that there isn't already an established talent on your roster that could do.
I mean, what would make sense, and this would be if you were I don't want to say a hardcore wrestling fan. No, that's not the best way to phrase it. I would say that if you watched Impact / TNA during the early years and you watch the product today, I would say that you're, a borderline wrestling super fan, which is fine. But this would only make sense to those super fans. You could pair Eric Young with Bobby Roode when he comes back. I'm not saying do the whole Team Canada thing, but just, just pair those guys together.
So let me ask you this first before we move forward.
Yep.
Do you bring Eric Young back with the same kind of gimmick, or the gimmicks that he's been running with Violent by Design and Impact, or are you saying we bring him back and scratch the gimmicks, scratch the dark character?
I'm saying scratch
That?
everything.
Okay.
Scratch everything. Scratch everything, but not necessarily repackage him or anything. Just let him.
Eric Young. People are going to know who he is.
Yeah.
So you're saying he doesn't come back as violent killer, crazy truck driver look, but he comes back as just Eric Young, and there's that respect factor because it's Eric Young. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Continue. I just wanted to make sure so I can understand.
No, for sure. But honestly, outside of that, I can't really think, at least off the top of my head, like if I took 20 or 30 minutes and looked at the roster up and down, SmackDown, Raw, NXT, I could probably say, 2 or 3 spots where it may work, but that's just it. If Eric Young is coming to WWE, I'm like you, just immediate thought where he would fit, what might make sense. Outside of doing some comedic shtick, which I kind of feel like they're doing away with for the most part. I mean, they just got rid of the 24/7 championship, thank God.
Right.
But outside of that, I can't really, I don't envision a spot for him that at least in my mind, without sitting in a creative room with guys with WWE, what would make sense?
So thoughts on, because to me the only thing that makes sense is if they're doing some kind of a Wyatt family reboot and he's involved with that. Obviously, he's played these darker characters for the past few years now.
Yeah.
He's kind of got the look for it, and or can pull off the look for it. Do we think that's what this is, or do you think he's? I don't see them asking him to do. Here's the part that strikes me weird. They asked for him to come immediately. This isn't like from what I read, this wasn't like, hey, Eric Young's on his way back. We could see him by Royal Rumble. I read that it was like they want him back immediate, like they have something for him immediately.
Like, we'll see him on TV imminently kind of thing.
Kind of like, yeah, like ASAP, get here, let's get you suited up and let's go.
Yeah.
So to me, that means there's got to be a storyline that needs like him, like ASAP. Well, the only one that would make any kind of sense to me would be the Wyatt family type stuff. Because I don't think you call him back and say, we need you immediately in NXT. Like there's no such thing. NXT can go for 8 weeks without something immediately. That's just, that to me would seem silly to ask that of him so quickly. I don't see Judgment Day adding a fifth member. I don't think it needs a fifth member. I don't know. Like I don't really see another option. I like Bobby Roode, but Bobby Roode does not need to be in another tag team. If they're going to use,
and I should have prefaced by saying I highly agree with that. I very much agree with that. I think he should be a singles wrestler. I'm saying from the perspective of if you're WWE and Eric Young's coming in, that's just like if I'm on WWE Creative, that's just the first thing that pops in my mind right away. Right.
But to me, again, even that's not something immediate though.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where I'm hung up is like they said something like, yeah, I mean, I agree, Brian. The only tag team I could say Robert Roode needs to be in is if they brought back Beer Money.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation. I mean, I was even thinking when the irony is, coincidentally, when I saw that Eric Young was coming in, my thought was, you're bringing in Eric Young instead of James Storm. Like, granted, it could be a thing where James Storm doesn't want to go to the WWE. I don't know, but anyway.
So Wyatt family thoughts. I mean, is that the only thing? I mean,
for the verbiage that you're alluding to, that you're referencing, to me, yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. If there's such a big urgency for him to, come in and be an immediate player, I mean, but I also think that a lot of the stuff with the Wyatt storyline and Wyatt 6 or what Wyatt family, whatever you want to refer to it as, I still think that, and this is a whole nother topic as well, I still think a lot of that is fluid. I think they're still trying to figure that out as they go, which is fine. But bringing in Eric Young could just be we have Eric Young, we'll go with that plan if it makes sense. If it doesn't, then we'll figure out something else for Eric Young.
So last question then on this topic. Eric Young by himself, obviously, to me, is not a draw. There's nothing like this is where I'm stuck. He's not. I don't know if I could even say he fits in the mid-card picture on either brand. Like Eric Young versus Walter does not. It doesn't scream at me like, oh my goodness, we need that match.
Right.
Eric Young versus Austin Theory definitely doesn't scream, I need to see that match. And like I said, I just don't see demanding him immediately and putting him back on NXT making any sense. Not to mention, name a match on NXT that really screams to you, Eric Young, the singles wrestler.
No.
Versus so-and-so. So to me, he's got to be in a faction. He's got to, even if they were doing Sanity again, at least it would be a faction. At least it would be something where he's not on his own. I think standalone, he would be boring in WWE specifically.
What if you did this? Now, granted, I know I'm thinking out loud and not so much saying, hey, I think they should do this. This is just something that, again, thinking out loud. You mentioned Judgment Day. I don't think they need a fifth member. This next group, I don't think they need a fifth member either, but they would have kind of the TNA Impact ties. He could be kind of like the funny guy of the group. What about the club?
See, that name came up to me, but honestly, outside of Judgment Day and the OC feuding with each other, name another feud. Name another feud where
Yeah.
Styles and the club or the OC needs to feud with on specifically on Raw. I mean, I know I read that they're talking about doing the draft and we'll get a balance of the scales maybe on the two shows, but I mean, I guess you could have them feud with the Bloodline at some point, but even then, like
Now that
the
would be fun. I would say that would be fun to watch if Eric Young were like a comedic character and he had like interactions with Sami Zayn. That could be fun to
the
watch.
now there's value in that because he could be kind of the Sami Zayn of the club, and you could kind of have them have similarity. Like, yeah, I mean, like I guess if you were to deeply get into the writing on this, you could find something for him. The problem for me is Eric Young has played a dark character for years. I
Yeah.
mean, years.
Mhm.
So having him switch to babyface and being comedic by any means almost seems too far fetched, which is why I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I don't know if Eric Young, the singles wrestler, makes sense anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it
It,
has to be in a faction. I don't know what faction that would be, but I guess that's where we'll be, unless there's a new faction debuting. Outside of Sanity, like if he
yeah.
was to put together, like you could see him, maybe JD McDonough, uh, some of these darker characters, if you will. Maybe Karrion Cross is about to have a faction. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, what if he joins that schism or whatever?
See, that seems like he to me. He seems like he would have to be the leader of it
Yeah.
because I think he's a better option in that regard than Joe Gacy. And I'm not against Joe Gacy. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to put Joe Gacy and Eric Young in the ring, I'm picking Eric Young 10 times over. So, like,
Yeah.
so
And
I don't know.
Brian alluded to what I was saying. It's just I think it's a little far fetched at this point, given how the more recent characters he's played on TV, regardless of organization. I think it would make it difficult to transition him to a comedic character. So
Right.
let's move on to our recap of Survivor Series that we were supposed to do last week, but just with the holidays, personally, I needed the night off. I can't speak for Cole necessarily, but I needed the night off. I wanted to spend time with my family, and it was just a crazy weekend last week. So, yeah. So first off, a note I had was that the pre-show was an hour long, but we didn't get any pre-show matches, and that actually contradicted what was posted online, that the pre-show was going to start at what it would have been 6:30 Eastern time, I believe. Is that right?
So no, it was Central because
6:30
you
Central. Yeah, sorry.
you were coming over to my house at 6,
Yeah,
and when you got there, the pre-show had already
already
started, and
started. Yeah, yeah,
I was like, I thought online it said 6:30, and you agreed, and I was like, yeah, that's weird that they're doing an hour pre-show, and I thought maybe we'll get a surprise match or something. No, we
Eh,
didn't get
we did
nothing.
not. So opening match, Team Belair defeated Team Bailey. This actually went longer than the men's War Games match. Went almost 40 minutes. Um, your thoughts? I'll let you tackle this one first.
So, as far as women war game matches goes, if you're gonna put it in a ranking system with the other women's war game matches, I know they're NXT, but that's
Yeah.
all we have to go off of. I think it's maybe middle to the top of the list, somewhere in there. It wasn't like it was phenomenal for me. Like it wasn't like it was great. Um, but at the same time, it also wasn't terrible. There were good spots. The Io Shirai off the top of the cage really scared me just from the way that she came down. Like and that's a scary spot to do because you're falling blind. But there were some good spots. I think what brought it down for me though is that one, I did not like that they had Nikki Cross just like basically sitting on the ring post, half the match. Like she did a lot of just like standing around and whatever. And I think the struggle for them was the basically the filler time until the last person enters the ring, because the match doesn't even really start until that last person enters the ring. So it's just like it almost seemed like there was no real script written.
Mm-hmm.
There were key spots in each entry and whatever, and making sure the right weapons and stuff got in the ring and all that stuff. But it almost just seemed like, hey, just beat down on each other, kind of go back and forth until Becky enters the ring. Let Becky go on like a 3.5 minute run of beating up everybody. And then, we'll do this, and, and then we'll get to the finish. So it felt very maybe sporadic during the filler time of waiting for everybody to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I didn't dislike it. As far as opening matches go, it wasn't bad. Obviously, you wanted to split up the two war game matches, so it wasn't bad. Enjoyed it. I thought the booking was a little interesting though.
I agree.
Mainly because you have Bianca Belair here, who's had the title. She's beaten Bayley twice on pay-per-views. You have Bayley and your tag team champions take an L here when you're trying to make Damage Control look like a good women's faction on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And you put Rhea on that team, which they're now kind of tossing her name out for the main event spot at WrestleMania with Bianca. And not that she's a bad choice, but you're booking her like you book China. You're making her dominant. You're having her beat up men. And then, like I said, you have Nikki Cross go crazy, and yet she was sitting on the ring post most of the match. So I think the booking was wrong here because everybody else on the other side could afford to lose in this kind of match. I don't think that the people you've been building up as heels could afford to lose this match, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with mostly everything you said. I think it was a good opener to the show. But as far as where I'd rank it with other War Games matches, like you said, with grouping it with NXT, I mean, I'd probably put it right in the middle. I mean, I wasn't like blown away, but it wasn't bad.
Right.
There were noticeable botches that, were, I don't want to say were expected, but I think with the problem with a War Games match, whether it's men or women, is you can't plan every single spot. You can't plan every single move. It's just like a Rumble match. You got people coming in every couple minutes. So you're doing stuff on the fly. And granted, you had some younger people in that match that haven't been in wrestling as long. So naturally, you're going to have those instances where you're doing stuff on the fly. Some aren't as comfortable with it, and there's going to be nerves involved, whatever. So I'll say what brings it down for me, and probably what shouldn't, but it does. I think they got the booking wrong in the sense I think the wrong team won. I would have had Team Bayley win. I'm not saying, Becky comes back. I'm not saying she takes the pin. But I feel like you could probably forward whatever storyline they're doing with Alexa Bliss, eventually migrating, for lack of a better word, towards this darker character that they keep teasing, have her take the pin here and just kind of build off that. But I don't know. So
Yeah, and actually, I do want to ask this question because I this is something that's just interesting to talk. David Tilley brings it up here. I know the original War Games it's not a Survivor Series match, right? Like it was its own thing back in the day.
yeah, so
But
Submit or Surrender
they
was
made this a Survivor Series match, and now just because we're already on the topic of Survivor Series, I enjoyed the pay-per-view overall. I just want to get that out there first. But should they have made this a elimination style match where you had to pin each person and get them out. Because to me, that makes the match just. I think I'm leaning on the side of yes for Survivor Series specifically, because it makes the match a little bit more entertaining, because you don't know if you're going to have 5 people in the match by the time the 5th person gets in. That's why the advantage helps you even more. The advantage really does you nothing, except it gives you an extra person to beat down on them until the last person comes in. But, having the advantage, teasing pinfalls, making someone like, if you had Bianca start the match off, making her look like an actual survivor because she's breaking out of pinfall after pinfall with 2 and 3 people beating her up. So I almost feel like I lean on the side of that. But to take that question even further, did this Survivor Series miss anything with not having a traditional 5-on-5 elimination style match, whether it be in War Games or whether it just been a 5-on-5, elimination style match?
I'm really torn on that question, because Survivor Series was, as a kid, always an elimination style match where you had 4 against 4, 5 against 5. In even earlier cases, I think you actually had 10 against 10. You had like 5 tag teams on each, like 5 normal tag teams on one side and then 5 normal tag teams on the other side. So you had 10 against 10. But the problem with that is, if you go back and watch those matches, you'd have guys taking pins like after a clothesline or a drop kick, because you have to have those quick eliminations to get everybody out of the match,
Right.
because all of the matches on the card were like that. So, I mean, you'd have to get guys out every 2 or 3 minutes just so you could get through the match in a decent time, again, because you had 6 other matches on the card that were like that. And you also had interview time and whatnot. So, which is another reason why I liked Survivor Series when it was going the route of brand supremacy type storyline.
Right.
I do like that they brought War Games back, but I think they should have. See, I don't know how you do it, because I know they're wanting to get away from gimmick pay-per-views like Elimination Chamber,
Right.
Extreme Rules, things like that. Hell in a Cell, what have you. So I don't think you can. I think it would be hypocritical, so to speak, if you introduce a War Games pay-per-view. So that all being said, I'm okay with the War Games being on Survivor Series, but I'd also be okay with them tweaking the War Games rules from the standpoint of have it be an elimination style match.
For sure.
So, next match, AJ Styles gets the win over Finn Balor, about 18 and a half minutes. I told you while we were watching it, I mean, it was a decent match, but I was kind of left underwhelmed by it, and perhaps that's my fault. Maybe I expected too much out of it. I was surprised by the booking as well, because Finn Balor was, touted as, they're really wanting to build him up, put him in a prominent position booking wise. So the fact that he took the pin, the fact that he lost, was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, and I think the issue here is you got here you got 2 guys that New Japan, just specifically just in the indie kind of style of wrestling. We see this in New Japan, this matchup in New Japan. It's a 5-star match, right? Like it's going to be a banger of a match. They're pulling no punches.
Right.
This matchup honestly probably should have been saved for a championship style match. Where they're the headliner, that the limelight's more on them. It's about them. I think the storyline, and maybe this is setting the stage for a storyline when ever Finn or AJ is champion at some point again, where they'll actually face off again and have a bigger, better match. But when you're second on the card, you're not going to get the time or the go ahead to be the star of the show. You can go out there and take what you have and try to make it the most that it is, but I think that's kind of the root problem here on this matchup. You went second on a show that has 2 War Game matches, and
Yeah.
you're going up against one of the matches that has the Bloodline literally in it, and which is one of your hottest acts, and so I don't. I think this matchup should have been saved. As far as a one-on-one, you could have kept having them feud as teams or whatever. I would have much rather have seen, um, the Good Brothers versus Dominic and Damien or Damien and Finn or whatever, um, versus these two going at it with nothing to really show for it. I
Yeah.
guess I think that would have made it feel bigger, and it puts the limelight on them just a little bit more to shine a little bit more.
Gotcha. Match number 3, I went to the bathroom and sat on my phone during the duration, so I don't really care. But Ronda Rousey defeated Shotzi. 7-minute match. Again, I didn't watch it. That was by choice. This is a match that they should have just saved for SmackDown. I mean, this match didn't need to be between the match itself and the entrances. They could have given an extra 5 minutes, 7 minutes to both or either of the War Games matches. It wasn't necessary.
Yeah, this match does not fit the card, and I get, honestly, you want Ronda on the card. I get it. You want Ronda Rousey on the card. You want her to have good matches. The problem with, and this is going to be the problem that you always run into when you book a Ronda Rousey, a Brock Lesnar, someone dominant like that to be champion. If it's not a marquee name that you've not built, that you've not done the effort to build up, the match is going to be lackluster. And the problem is Ronda Rousey is not terrible, but pretty green in the ring.
She's still got work to do, and she's been around for, I mean, 4 years now, and that's counting her time away. I think 4 years, 3 maybe.
They're almost trying to book her with the Brock Lesnar moveset where she comes in, she does this like 4 moves and, is very dominant. But one, I told you the spot on the ring apron where Shotzi tried to deliver like a DDT or whatever on the ring apron, like it was completely botched, and it was all Ronda's fault, like 100% Ronda's fault. And she tried to sell it. It didn't look good. I think they're either don't have Ronda on this card at all, and book yourself an IC title match on this card. I know they were trying to get another women's match, and I get that, but book an IC title match with Walter versus whoever you want to throw in there. Book the World Cup winner on this show and do Santos and Ricochet on this show. Whatever you need to do, but this match was not good enough compared to all the other matches to be on the card.
Yep. 100% agreed. In the shock of the night, Austin Theory wins the United States Championship. About a 15-minute match. I guess I'm okay with the booking. I hated it at first, but I'm just like, you know what? I'll wait and see what happens. I'll try to warm up to it. The execution at the end of the match was perfect, though. I love how they did that. Just as far as the sequence was Seth had Seth had Austin up in like a suplex brainbuster maneuver. I think Lashley speared him or something like that, but landed on top of Seth. I think that's how. Is that right?
Yeah.
But it was very well done. So, yeah, your thoughts?
As a Austin Theory hater, I personally am just not a fan thus far in what he's done. This is beautiful booking. This was this you want to talk about on the edge of your seat kind of shocking kind of booking. Go back and watch the clip. Everybody was shocked that they let him win. Not only that they let him win, but that they let him win like that. Because here, and this was so funny. Everyone's still trying to create this narrative. well, Triple H, he's just trying to save his own butt from burying him with the briefcase and stuff. Nah, bro. Everything they
He
did was
doesn't care.
perfect. Everything that they did was perfect because let's be real. Not a single one of us wanted Austin Theory to cash in on Roman Reigns and win. And if he cashes in and loses, what was the point of putting the briefcase on him in the first place? You know, you could have gave it to somebody else that it wouldn't matter if they win or lost. This is a big deal if Austin Theory fails his cash in because go look at all the go look at all of the failed cash-ins of the people that had they won, it would have elevated their career, and look at where they're at now. Because most of them aren't even in the company anymore, let alone top guys.
Yeah.
So fast forward, they have him, he takes this more serious character, whatever. I like the beard, definitely helps. Him not being a baby face definitely helps. I like the angle they're running with the kid stuff. Everybody calling him kid and him having a chip on his shoulder to prove himself. But him getting the dub over Seth and Bobby, one, great booking just from a storytelling purpose. But also, y'all got to remember, Royal Rumble is right around the corner. And you got to have 30 guys that can be in that match. And I know it's the United States title, but here's the thing. If you're going to have a Royal Rumble match and it's got to have 30 guys in it, you're probably going to have Austin Theory defend the United States title on the pay-per-view. He's probably not going to be in the match. If I had to guess, it's probably going to, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Austin Theory versus Mustafa Ali, because it can be a good match and be a United States title match or whatever, and because neither one of them need to be in the Rumble. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
So you just freed up Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins for the Royal Rumble in the process. That was the smartest thing you could do. Because if either one of them were holding the United States title, we automatically would have been like, yeah, they're not winning the Rumble. So
agreed.
I thought it was great booking. Even though I'm against Austin Theory 9 times out of 10, I thought it was great booking.
Main event, the Bloodline gets the win over the team of the Brutes, Drew and KO. 38 and a half minutes. Just you just alluded to storytelling and booking. This is perfect. I'll say pun intended. This was absolutely perfect. WWE needs to keep rolling with this. Now this is a conversation for another podcast, because this could be a 30-40 minute conversation in of itself. But what if they being WWE, what if they just keep rolling with Roman as champion even past Mania? Because I think we all expect him to go into Mania and drop it to whoever he's going up against. But what if they just keep riding this because it's so over? Like the rumor is that, Jimmy and Jay are going to defend against KO and Sammy. Eventually Sammy's going to leave the Bloodline, or they're going to kick him out or whatever. But because it's so over, what if they just say, we're going to table those plans and just ride this thing as long as it's going to work for us?
Here's the thing. I don't care if people are say they're getting tired with it or not. They're tuning in. Survivor Series was the most watched Survivor Series of all time. Mm-hmm. Their viewership was up 46% from last year's Survivor Series. The merch is selling like crazy. Everyone's chanting Usi in every single show that you go to. The pops are there. The crowd reaction's there. I don't see, you've already gone this far. I don't see why you can't have Roman be the guy that, I'm not saying he has to beat the streak, but to be the guy that gets very, very close to being number 1 or number 2 on the list of all time days as champion. Yeah. You've already laid the groundwork. You've already made the Usos the tag team that has the longest tag title reign now. And, that's already wrote itself. You have a very dominant faction in all of this. And so I think they should keep riding it. And honestly, I'm at the point that whenever, the rumor is they want to get one of the titles off Roman. And I think the smartest thing to do is to have him only defend one of them at some point. Maybe that's at Mania, probably for the title. He's what is the Raw title that he's held for less amount of time or whatever. So, have him drop that title back to somebody, whether it be on Raw, whether it be someone from SmackDown, a new debut, whatever. No, I don't think it's The Rock, because, and I've already said this, The Rock's schedule is so jam packed that if they have a match, it's going to be a one-off match, and The Rock's back to Hollywood. The Rock does not have the schedule to win a title and then defend it, even on the next pay-per-view and drop it, or the next Monday Night Raw and drop it. He's very clear about that. I think
be less available than a part-time Lesnar.
Right. I think if you're going to do Roman versus The Rock, it's for bragging rights. It's for head of the table. It's for the bloodline, if you will. Like it's beyond titles, and I think that's a better storyline. Anyways, it transcends titles.
Not to mention, I think you actually would have Roman go over The Rock anyway, in my opinion.
I mean, what does The Rock have to gain by winning?
Exactly.
But what does Roman have to gain by winning? And so you start to weigh those things, and so I'm at the point. I'm still gonna keep saying it. When the time comes for Roman to drop a belt or all or both belts, your guy's name is Sami Zayn. You want to talk about the guy that's put in all the work. I mean, the bloodline getting over, it was already starting to get over on its own, slowly but surely. But you want to talk about skyrocketing it to the moon. Sami Zayn has skyrocketed their group, everything about it, to the moon. It's entertaining. They're having good matches. This Survivor Series match is, for me specifically, probably my favorite match of the year. I'm not going to say it's the best match of the year as far as technique and styles. My favorite, because the storytelling in it was probably the best storytelling I've seen. Maybe you could make an argument for the CM Punk MJF stuff as being really good storytelling too. Again, giving a lot of credit to MJF on that for building that story. But this right here, I mean, Sami's, and I said it during the match. Alex was with, we were watching it together. As soon as Sami Zayn caught the ref's arm, I was like, what a beautiful picture right there. Him holding the ref's arms, KO just looking at him like in shock. He saves Roman or whatever, and then looks at Roman and he says, "You want to know if I'm loyal or not?" Hits KO with the Halua kick, and allows Jey Uso to get the pin. Now everyone's trusting him. Now people are asking if Solo's loyal or not because he's not wearing the red shirt or he's not putting his finger in the air. Like, you've just created so many dynamics because you're wanting this group to break up so bad, and it's not happening. And I love it because people are just on the edge of their seats. Okay, is tonight the night that Sami turns on him? Okay, is tonight the night the Solo turns on him? Oh, wait, is Jay going to turn on him? Oh, wait, we haven't even talked about Jimmy. Is Jimmy going to turn on him? Is Roman going to turn on the whole family? There's all these different dynamics now. And I love that they shut the door on the one that everyone thought was going to happen here because they want a small payoff with KO and Sami at WrestleMania against the Usos. The payoff's not the Usos. The payoff is Sami versus Roman. You want to talk about Sami, who's the ultimate strategist. You want to talk about Sami, who has actually shown he's loyal. He's done everything for him. And the second that dissent or whatever is sewn into the group and he feels like, maybe I'm not valued, maybe I'm just a joke, and he plans this whole thing to turn it on Roman and he becomes champ, I'm with you. I think they take this beyond WrestleMania. I think if they were smart, they'd put the Money in the Bank briefcase on Sami, and Sami always is telling Roman for the next 6 months after that, I only am holding this briefcase so no one else can have it. I'm only holding this briefcase to protect you. I'm holding it so if for any reason that we need it, we have it just in case, and making sure that the bloodline stays intact. And then when the opportunity is there and it's some big stage and it was out of nowhere, Roman's just laid out on the ground after a gruesome match. Sami's just standing there. Everyone else is, it's some huge brawl and all the Usos are laid out. Everyone's laid out and Sami just looks at the briefcase and he split second decides to cash it in, wins the belt, whatever. Sami deserves to be champion because of this run. That's how I feel. The work that he's put in, the stuff that he's done, the way he's got himself and a whole group over, man, Give that man a payoff. Let him be champion.
Good stuff. All right. Overall grade. What do you give Survivor Series War Games?
I'm at a B.
Yeah.
Not terrible, not amazing.
Yeah. B- is where I'm sitting. I mean, I can't imagine where no, gosh. I'll take the minus away. I'll give it a B also. I mean, just because that main event was so good. I mean, couldn't
I will
ask
say
better.
the pay-per-view might have been different for me had they flipped the United States and Finn and AJ match, because I think after the women's, you want to kind of have that like slow build up,
Yeah.
kind of like plateau and then skyrocket up. And so I think if they would have had the United States title with that shocking, win, second on the card after the women's match, then done the Ronda Shotzi, that actually was the right place to put that match. And then putting AJ and Finn second to last, so it doesn't overshadow the Austin Theory stuff.
Gotcha. All right, guys, it's time for some Lord Alfred Hayes.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Guys, I want to let you know about a few things we got going on right now. You can check us out on prowrestlingtees.com/GoingBrdwyPodcast. We are still running our promotion where if you buy a GBP shirt off our Pro Wrestling Tees store between now and December 31st, for every shirt that you purchase, you will get an entry to win a belt from us. There are no limit to those entries. So if you buy one shirt, you get one entry. If you buy 5 shirts, you get 5 entries. 10 shirts, 10 entries. You get the idea. So check that out. That goes until December 31st, and we will announce the winner via a drawing on our podcast on the, I don't know, whatever the next date is after the 31st. But I will say we are not having a podcast on Christmas Day. We won't have a podcast that week at all. We might have one the following week on the 2nd, but that would be a Monday. We won't have one on New Year's Day. We might do one the day after. To be determined on that. We'll let you guys know. But we'll be on schedule next week on the 11th, normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. The week after that, on the 18th, later show, we will have one, but it'll be later in the evening, so 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern. I'll let you guys know for sure on that. And then that'll pretty much round out our year. Again, Christmas Day, we won't have a show. New Year's Day, we will not have a podcast, but we might have one the Monday after, which would put it on the 2nd. But again, we'll let you guys know. But then after that, we have a special guest joining us, the one and only Alundra Blaze / Medusa, depending on if you watch WWF, WWE, or WCW. She'll be joining us January 8th, which is a Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. So we're excited about that. That'll be a fun interview. We are also running our 12 Days of Christmas promotion right now, which the promotion itself is closed, but we are running nightly matches on our Twitch channel. Cole, you want to tell them about that?
Yeah, tonight is night 4. We are doing an after party here. As soon as the podcast concludes, you'll give me about 5 minutes to get the Xbox on, change the title, and get the stream going. I'm going to be honest with you guys just real quick. I was in the works on some stuff. I'm still going to try to get it fixed, but I had done a lot of work on a big surprise for you guys. One of them was I was working my butt off to get all these unlockable characters unlocked for Royal Rumble and all these things. And the other night I was playing and my Xbox said that the data was corrupted and it deleted everything that I had worked on. And so I'm a little bummed. I did get everything fixed for tonight because we had 2 people. One picked Kane and one picked Steve Austin, and they're unlockable characters. I did work and do some matches enough to be able to buy those guys so that you will have them for your matches tonight. And I need to go and check to make sure I'm not missing any others for future matches. But I'm going to try to get everything fixed for Royal Rumble month because we have some exciting things to unveil for that. I'm going to keep it a secret for now. But we have some really exciting things that we're excited to do. But tonight is night 4. Let me give you a little preview here of the matchup. So day 1 went to our one of our favorite people here, the lunch lady, Stacy Hernacki, won night 1 in the 5-way 5-pack challenge, if you will, women's match. Night 2 went to Andrew Boehner with the quickest match I think I've ever
It's like
seen.
a 4-minute match.
It was stunner out of nowhere. KO got the win there for Andrew Boehner. Last night we had it might have been our longest match.
Easily.
Close to it, if not. But our day 3 winner went to the David Tilley. Rey Mysterio pulled it out for him in a very, very, it was like pins and needle. Like it was close there at the end. So
I posted on one of our chat threads that the match, our simulated match on 2K22 was better than 90% of the matches that we see today. Like 90% of the product that's out there.
I was like, he got thrown out of the ring. He got the, and so it definitely kept me on my toes for sure. So tonight, day 4, we have.
By the way, I want to point out real quick, all of our winners so far are current GBP patrons. So
I was about to get there.
I
was about to get there.
Sorry.
So day 4, we have our Hell in a Cell 5-way match. It will be Thomas Russell with Randy Orton, Andrew Boehner with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, Stacy Hernacki with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Bruce Jackson with Kane. I wish, Chris, to answer your question, I wish that I could do live commentary, but because it is a computer-only match, it actually does not allow my mic to work during the match, so I talk before and after, and I'm in the chat, chatting it up with you guys as well. So, but that is tonight's match, Hell in a Cell. As soon as the podcast ends, stick around near your phone. You'll get the update for Twitch only to watch our day 4. And I'm excited for this one. This one could go quick. Then we got to climb a ladder here. So KO could hit another stunner out of nowhere and win the match. So I'm excited for that. But I did want to reiterate what Alex was saying. Maybe you're here tonight and you're like, man, I wish I could have got in on some of this. If anything, guys, it's a lot of fun. I think our slots were like $5 a day to get in, if I'm not mistaken. So, and we open it up to our patrons first because our patrons are what help us and support our show financially, and that's a huge blessing for us. And so they got first dibs, and I think before we even unveiled it on Black Friday to the general audience, there was only like 10 slots left.
There were literally, whenever we opened it up to our entire Facebook page or our entire everyone in our group, our patrons. Now, mind you, we don't have a ton of patrons. It's, it's not like we've got 20, 30 patrons or anything. We only had 10 slots open. Of the 61 slots for all 12 matches, only 10 were open whenever we posted it to our Facebook page. So that's just
we limited it. We limited it to 2 slots per match, and not all of our patrons took 2 slots per match. So
yeah, good point.
So I just want to throw that out there. Our lowest tier on our Patreon page is $5, and that gives you access to these first dibs type things for the gaming. Gives you some inside news before anybody else. But even if you would consider getting a higher tier, there's perks and benefits for all of them. And anybody that's in here that is a patron can attest to the benefits that come with being in that part of our community. Andrew Boehner can tell you he got to already be on the show with us, and I had an absolute blast chatting it up with him and continuing to build our friendship.
I'll talk to that real quick. If you are a gold or platinum tier patron, you get to be on a podcast with us at least once a year. So if you're a gold patron, you get to do a podcast with us once during the year. If you're a platinum tier member, you get to be on with us twice. And as long as schedules work out, you guys get to pick the date. It can't coincide with another patron or another guest that we have on. So, like, for example, you can't pick to be on with us whenever we host Medusa / Alundra Blaze. But other than that, you pick the date.
And we typically give dibs to questions for our guests to our patrons first, and there's a lot of benefits to it. So for $5 a month, it might be worth considering that. Plus, you'll know about some of these things that we do before we announce it to the general public. So I just wanted to reiterate, all of our winners so far have been Patreon members. And let's just be real, if they keep winning, they're gonna have multiple entries into a belt raffle. That's only gonna have 12 names in it. So I'm super you guys are awesome. It outside of winning a belt and the financial side of it all, it's just so fun to get on there and commentate about a computer generated video game that's going on. And so we have a blast. And it's been fun to add this part to our community and to our podcast. And like I said, guys, after Christmas, stick around for the video game stuff, because we have a bunch of stuff planned for Royal Rumble. And like I said, I have been putting in a lot of work. I can't say what I did or what I'm going to have to redo. But you guys are going to be I just know it. You guys are going to be so thrilled with all the work that was put in on it and the things you're going to be able to do. And so we do that because we love you guys and we care about our community. And so we just like having fun, and it's going to be good.
And I want to say something, Travis, we care. We appreciate you, buddy. I just 100% honest and sincerity right now, man. We care. And we appreciate it. So I don't want you to think that nobody cares, because Cole and I do. So
for sure. And so, and I don't want it to seem like we're not a patron. We don't care. We love our entire community.
Absolutely.
But with us being completely crowdfunded now, we are trying to come up with creative ways to help kind of fund the podcast, to keep it done in excellence. And while continuing to have fun with our community and making this just such a fun and safe place to come to talk wrestling, to build friendships. And what I love about our group is that you can genuinely tell that there's legitimate friendships there and relationships that have been built through the podcast. So after the podcast is over here, give me about 5 minutes. I'll get the stream up, and we'll get into our day 4 Hell in a Cell match. And we'll be running these all the way up to day 12 every night in a row. So each day I'll post the time. I'm trying to keep it close to 7 p.m. as best as I can, as best as my schedule allows. But just make sure you're paying attention to the social media, to the Discord, so you don't miss out on the matches.
Indeed. Guys, for time's sake, I'm gonna skip the final battle predictions. Is that okay? I mean, not to be disrespectful.
How many matches are on it?
They've actually advertised 5 so far.
You just want to Russian roulette, like just quick, like let's not hash it out.
We can. We'll just knock it out real quick. But I mean, honestly, yeah, we'll knock it out real quick. Okay. So there's a tag match. I don't even know who one of the guys is, but it's Swerve and our rewind. Let's try that again. Swerve and Our Glory, which is Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee, against Shane Taylor, who made his AEW debut on Rampage, and whoever JD Griffey is.
Part of Shane Taylor Promotions, that he had like a 6-man, a 3-man group or whatever.
Okay.
And ROH. I'm going to go with Shane Taylor Promotions. I think you're going to see Swerve and Our Glory break up for good here.
Agreed. Although I think it's weird that they're going to do it on a Ring of Honor show, but whatever. Mercedes Martinez defending the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship against Athena.
I didn't even know that she had the belt. Like I'm
going to say she's been injured.
I'm going to say Athena, because I don't stop having her lose.
Yeah, same here. Athena. Same here. Samoa Joe defending the Ring of Honor Television Championship against Juice Robinson, who is now part of AEW / Ring of Honor.
I don't. That's tough, because they just had him win the TNT, and maybe they want to get the ROH off of him. But I don't know if Juice is the guy.
I don't think he is. I'm saying Joe here.
I'm going to say Samoa Joe retains.
And for the 57th time, we have Daniel Garcia against Wheeler Yuta for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship.
I don't see Daniel Garcia losing to Wheeler Yuta.
I don't either.
Say Daniel Garcia.
And Jericho defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Claudio Castagnoli.
What I want and what I think is going to happen is where I'm in a battle here. I'm going to go with Jericho, even though I want Claudio.
Yep. Same here. Okay. So our predictions actually line up there. Now we're going to go to NXT Deadline. By the way, for quick context, Final Battle is running the same day as Deadline, but Final
At
Battle is
2
being
p.m.,
ran
3
in the
p.m.?
afternoon. It's like 3 p.m. So 4 p.m. Eastern, I think, 3 p.m. Central. And Tony Khan is saying it's because of college football. I say bullcrap. But anyway.
Right.
But so the ironic thing is we were kind of indirectly ripping on Ring of Honor for not having a lot of matches advertised. Deadline only has 3 matches so far.
Yeah, I think they developed their last 2. They'll have 5 on this altogether. I think they develop them this week.
We can only predict what we have in front of us. So we've got the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge to determine the number 1 contender. Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Kiana James, and wild card winner.
That's happening tomorrow or Tuesday night this week. You'll have 2 wild card matches for the men and the women's to get that last.
And I'm looking at the wild card entries now, and I don't think it's going to be any of them anyway.
So read the ones that are in it for sure.
So for the women, the wild card match is Wendy Chu, Fallon Henley, and Indy Hartwell.
No, I mean the ones that are already announced in the match.
Oh, Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, and Kiana James.
For a number 1 contender, that's probably going to be for Royal Rumble weekend or the pay-per-view that happens in January.
I'll just give my prediction first. I'm going Roxanne.
I like Roxanne, but they've kind of already done it.
Well, I know, but
I'm going to go Zoe Stark.
Okay.
I'm going to go Zoe Stark.
The Men's Iron Survivor Challenge, we've got Carmelo Hayes, JD McDonough, Grayson Waller, Joe Gacy, and also the wild card winner, which is Von Wagner, Axiom, and Andre Chase.
Okay, read the 4 that are already in it.
Carmelo, JD McDonough, Grayson Waller, and Joe Gacy. I'm going Grayson here.
I'm going to go Carmelo Hayes. If it's a number 1 contender that he wins, Carmelo versus Braun screams money to me. So
I don't know. Something just tells me they're not going to take it off Braun anytime soon.
I didn't say take it off him. I just said challenge.
Well, I know. So, my logic is I think Carmelo is going to be the one to do it.
Oh, I see.
But I don't think we're there yet.
Got you.
But we'll see. And I kind of just spoiled my prediction for the next match. Braun Breaker against Apollo Crews.
Yeah, I don't think you can have Apollo beat Braun Breaker. I think it's gonna be Braun. I do think they'll do a match with Wesley on the card for the North American. I was trying to think of a 5th match. Mandy Rose will probably defend it as well. I think you put all your titles on this for sure. You call the pay-per-view Deadline, so it's like the last chance to try to do something this year. So you would think almost all your titles would be represented. So
that's about all the time we got, guys. And as far as tonight goes, this is kind of what I envisioned our podcast being, around this length, around hour and 15, hour and 20 for most nights. I know whenever we did our studio shows a few months ago, we'd always run like closer to 2 hours, but I did want to condense it, and this is about what I envisioned it to be most nights. So that being said, Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Thank you for dealing with me earlier this evening with the technical difficulties. I will be looking to see if I can get that fixed. But don't forget, about 5 minutes after the podcast ends, just wait. I will get the stream up on Twitch only. Remember, Twitch only.
Switch to Twitch.
To get these day 4 of our 12 Days of Christmas gaming tournament going. But thank you guys for watching, for participating as always. And love you guys. And I will be back on, and Alex will probably be in the chat.
Actually, I probably won't be.
Wow, he hates you guys. I'm sorry. I'm just
just not tonight, guys.
I'll be in the chat with you as well. And so we'll have a good time. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in about 5 minutes.
See you guys.